Hi, I'm James and I'm one of the instructors at Milton Keynes Aikido Club in the UK. And this is just another one of our occasional coronavirus lockdown videos that we're doing while we're waiting to get back to training together in person. Now, one of the things people often say to me about Aikido is that it's just too complicated, far too much thinking, and just too hard to get your head around. But funnily enough, that's exactly what got me back into Aikido after a break of a few years, because I like to describe it as the thinking person's martial art, obviously with no intended offence to other colleagues in other martial arts. So yes, most of the training we do is physical. That's avoiding, moving, turning, breaking our opponent's balance, applying wrist and arm locks, learning how to throw your training partner a uke, neutralising an attack. But as you get a bit more immersed in your Aikido, you begin to realise just how much more there is about developing yourself as a person. There's so much in Aikido about building self-discipline and mental resilience, improving teamwork, and maybe most of all, developing a healthy and positive attitude towards yourself and towards other people. And that's why I personally have so much respect for those clubs which emphasise that Aikido for them is about transforming people's lives for the better. So, to develop your Aikido in the complete sense, there's quite a lot of work to do with what goes on up here, and also, I guess, what goes on in here as well. So we're going to look in this video at the 5 minds of Aikido, which is a way of understanding the changes that happen in mind state and mental development, which can happen as a result of Aikido training. And I've got to say, this is based on a really good and helpful article which was written for the website goodaikido.com by instructor Crom Salvatera for his club, the North Sydney Aikido Club in Australia. So here are the 5 minds of Aikido. Okay, let's start with the first of these mind states, which is Shoshin. Shoshin translates approximately as beginner mind, and it's the attitude of mind that committed students have at the start of their training in Aikido. Interest, curiosity, eagerness to learn, questioning, enthusiasm, excitement. Hopefully it's a long list. And it's basically how children approach something new and intriguing, and it's the energy and openness which young people bring to Aikido, which can so often teach long-standing Aikido practitioners some very important lessons. So Shoshin is the first of the 5 Aikido minds, but it's also, unfortunately, the easiest one to lose, because once they've been practicing for a while, some people come to believe that they know pretty much everything there is to know about Aikido. And they begin to demonstrate what we might call an anti-Shoshin state of mind. For example, if a technique doesn't work, they blame their uke, which is their training partner, for attacking them incorrectly, or for moving too slow, or moving too fast, or being too tall, or being too short, or too light, or too heavy, etc., etc. Whereas, of course, it simply means that they haven't adapted the technique correctly, and they need to concentrate on improving their own skills rather than blaming somebody else. Anti-Shoshin thinking also crops up, sadly, in the form of a kind of arrogance when people criticise the way other clubs teach Aikido, believing that because a technique or a style or a way of doing something is different from the way they do it, it must therefore be wrong. So Shoshin, or beginner mind, is about having an humble attitude and an openness to learning from other people, whatever colour their belt is or however young or old they are. Now, let's look at the second of our 5 Aikido minds. This is Zanshin, or the aware mind. Now, to reach a state of Zanshin in your Aikido is going to take you several years of regular training, because Zanshin is a state of being completely aware of everything around you in all 3 dimensions. But it's not a state of anxiety or nervousness or a kind of preoccupation with potential danger. It's a state of what we could probably call relaxed alertness. When you reach a true state of Zanshin, you will be able to anticipate a possible threat, to understand the speed and force of an attack, and to be in a relaxed but alert posture when that attack arrives. Now, needless to say, you'll need to have learned lots and lots of Aikido techniques and spent many hours practicing them in free play, including free play against more than one attacker, before you can get anywhere near the state of completely relaxed awareness that is Zanshin. And if that sounds like hard work, wait till we get to the third of our 5 Aikido minds. The third Aikido mind is Mushin, which translates approximately as no mind or empty mind. It's the next step on from Zanshin, which is that state of completely relaxed awareness. So Mushin describes the state of mind where movement and action and reaction all happen without any conscious thought process or decision making taking place. So when we're faced with an opponent or more than one opponent in free play, the first mistake all of us make is trying to decide which technique to use as the attack develops. Because getting bogged down in decision making means we're diverting our mind from responding to the attack. Our conscious thinking gets in the way of a response to the threat. You'll have heard the martial arts phrase, be like water. And Yushiba himself used that analogy quite often because he saw Aikido as a continuous flow of energy rather than a series of separate movements. Okay, if this is getting just a bit hard on the brain, let's think about driving a car. When you learn to drive, your mind is constantly overloaded with all the tiny actions you need to do. Move the gear lever, press your foot on the brake, look in the mirror, turn on the indicator. You have to recall each separate action from your memory and then try to carry it out correctly. It's exhausting. But once you've been driving for a while, the amount of conscious thinking you have to do gets less and less because you begin to drive and react to situations instinctively. And once you've driven for a number of years, you'll find that you're driving in a state of relaxed awareness, or Zanshin, and without consciously planning or thinking about the next movement of the steering wheel or gear lever. And that's kind of getting fairly close to a state of Mushin in Aikido. When practicing Aikido in a state of Mushin, your mind is as empty as the swept dojo floor, but your body is moving, acting, reacting without any conscious thought. And Aikido then becomes like a fluid and graceful dance, blending with the energy of an attacker to neutralize his or her attack. And in a state of Mushin, the Aikido practitioner begins to move beyond specific techniques, because those are kind of left behind as staging posts on the journey towards true Aikido, which is the state of blending with energy flow. So in Mushin, the mind is empty and still, while the body moves and flows like water in perfect balance and harmony with the energy directed against it. Now, needless to say, achieving a state of Mushin in your Aikido is going to take just a while. It's way beyond first dan black belt level, and most of us, to be honest, will probably never get quite that far. So, if you thought that achieving a state of Mushin will be a stretch, just wait till you hear about the last two of our Aikido minds. And here's mind number 4. This is the state of Fudoshin, or the immovable mind. The name itself comes from one of the many gods in esoteric Buddhism, the god Fudo. And in Japanese Buddhism, Fudo is the god of the righteous warrior, and he's depicted with a rather scary face, which is apparently, I'm told, to frighten his followers into accepting the goodness of life. As you saw there, he carries a sword in one hand, which is to cut through ignorance, and in the other hand, he carries a rope to tie up bad thoughts and actions. Okay, we quite like those two ideas. But most importantly, Fudo has an immovable mind, which means he doesn't allow distractions or random thoughts to get in the way of staying focused on the right path. I don't think that means being fixed of mind, in other words, that your mind doesn't change. What it means is that once you've made a decision based upon the evidence and what you've seen and the kind of moral case for and against, you make a decision and you stick to it. And an Aikido practitioner who has reached the state of Fudoshin will, in theory, never be intimidated or even defeated, because he or she faces every challenge or difficulty with the same completely calm spirit which has moved beyond doubt or fear or anger. Now, to be honest, I don't know anyone who has got anywhere close to that, but it seems likely that Yoshiba himself may have reached that level of Fudoshin, because even in his old age, it was said that he was still able to defeat multiple attackers in a state of focused and apparently effortless calm. And maybe it's also possible that Yoshiba may have reached the last stage in our 5 Aikido minds. And this is the state of Senshin, or the Enlightened mind. Okay, now this takes us into quite tricky territory, because you might think we're kind of moving into the realm of faith and religious belief, and I know a lot of people struggle with those ideas. But the concept of ultimate enlightenment is a principle found in Buddhism and Hinduism, but it doesn't necessarily depend on any belief in a divine being or even anything outside your direct human experience, because most mainstream Buddhism has no belief in God, and instead it focuses on what human beings themselves can do to reach a deeper insight into the purpose of being alive and being, if you like, an integral part of a universal ecosystem. And in that sense, Senshin is the state of mind in which all life is seen as interconnected and, if I can use a religious phrase, sacred And so an Aikido practitioner who reaches that stage will have already left his or her own pride and self-importance and ego behind. And he or she is now, one could say, almost invincible in combat, but also intends no harm to any other living thing. And this was rather, I thought, rather beautifully expressed by Senta Yamada, who many Aikido practitioners see as the founder of Tamiki Aikido in the UK. And he said, first of all, sometimes through fear, we learn Aikido so that we can defend, fight, and defeat powerful opponents. After achieving mastery of Aikido and discarding our fears and ego, in this place exists love without limits. So these are our 5 minds of Aikido. It's quite a journey. I guess the question to leave you with, and to be honest, it's a pretty impossible question to answer, is which of these 5 minds do you think is the most important one to help you develop in your Aikido journey? So thanks for watching. If you'd like to subscribe to our YouTube channel, you'll get a notification when we post new videos. And if you want to know more about what we do, just jump onto our website. And I'm going to finish this video with the greeting we give to each other at the end of each of our training sessions. We tend to sit in a circle in this, the traditional Japanese seiza position. And the greeting, which is accompanied by a bow, translates as something like, give respect to everyone here. Otagai ni rei.